Surely that meant it would be good, right? Yeah, about that. I want to start this section off with a bang and say that the shipbuilding aspect of this game is pretty damn epic in my opinion. Even though I have the artistic talent of a salted snail, it was still utterly fantastic playing around with the shipbuilder as I blasted the Need for Speed Underground 2 soundtrack in the background. Sure, most of my designs look like the macaroni art your parents threw away when you weren't looking, but I would say it was the mechanic I engaged with the most outside of regular gameplay, and was a welcome addition to the game overall. What's more, they did a pretty good job of improving the overall combat experience. I surprisingly had a lot more fun than I expected engaging in combat this time round, and the additions of zero gravity battles, as well as the greater verticality of encounters, did a lot to make combat feel fresher for longer. The on-foot combat, while a little bit bullet spongy at times, was still pretty enjoyable overall, and the space combat did surprisingly better than I would have expected from their first attempt into the matter. Even the enemy AI, which, while not great, is a step up from the Tylenol-addicted meatsticks of before. Next up is the updated dialogue animation system. Unlike in previous games where most NPCs look like psychopaths doing their best "I swear I didn't just eat that homeless guy over there" impressions, the new animations they made are a very good step in the right direction. Sure, NPCs are sometimes a little too expressive and look like aliens who accidentally probe themselves, but the overall act of conversing with them felt a lot more engaging than in previous titles, and if they all had the same quality as the opening scene of the game, it would have been utterly phenomenal. This last one isn't a massive improvement to be fair, but should still be said nevertheless. Even though there are still tons of bugs that really detract from the overall experience, this is probably the first time Bethesda managed to release a game in a mostly playable state, and overall, the game ran rather smoothly from a stability standpoint. I know this sounds like I'm giving a "Who ate the least crayons" award at a Ubisoft executives meeting, but when your alter egos are known as Bugthesda and Betterthesda, it's only fair to give credit where credit's due. Picture this. Your friend Jake invited you over for dinner after a long day of basketball practice. You're so ravenously hungry you can't even think straight, and you sit at the table thinking about all the tantalizing food he's going to serve you. When suddenly, this closeted middle-aged white woman drops the most unseasoned boiled chicken-ass plate of food you've ever seen in front of you. Well, that's Starfield. This game is so milquetoast and sanitized, it honestly felt like Bethesda preempted the Microsoft AI takeover and asked ChatGPT how to maximize profits at the expense of fun.
Truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
Most followers are basically Preston Garvey from Fallout 4, and you constantly get punished for doing anything other than the most cookie-cutter, morally good choices possible. Even Sarah, who literally says, "I don't care what you do as long as you pursue space travel," constantly whines if you don't act like Mother Teresa around her. I'm sorry, did I have restricted airflow in the birthing canal, or am I misunderstanding what "I don't care what you do" means? As for the skill system, it's such a mixed bag honestly, and while I can appreciate certain aspects of it, I utterly hated other parts too. I think adding actual gameplay requirements before being able to progress skills further was a really nice touch. But then, the skill trees themselves and the act of leveling up felt more padded than an unstable ex-girlfriend with body dysmorphia. The first 30 hours of the game were a constant uphill battle in having to choose between creating actual builds or engaging with the multiple different elements of the game. Being forced to choose between things like persuasion and weapon skills versus more mechanical things like the lock-on system really detracted from the whole experience, and rather than being the fun GTA lap dance kind of grind, it felt more like having your fingers jammed inside of a trash compactor. However, before I continue, I want to know what you thought about the skill system down in the comments. For me, there were some good aspects to it, but ultimately, being unable to pick the skills I wanted until much deeper into the game felt like I was suffocating trying to find clean air in a paper bag full of farts. Finally, can someone please tell me why there are so many loading screens and so much running around with nothing to do in this game? I've heard of fetch quests before, but when did devs decide that introducing fetch, return, fetch, return, fetch quests into the mix was an okay thing to do? Excuse me, bitch. I did not spend $40 of my hard-earned tax evasion money just to play Boredom Simulator, you absolute rod polishers. Bethesda clearly attempted to employ the ancient art of whatever the fuck works, but were so busy ripping people off in the Creation Club that they forgot to make sure that everything they introduced actually worked beyond a superficial level. Hey, want to be an explorer and build your own galactic empire? Sure! Want to be a gunslinging space pirate or devilish ship captain? We've got you, fam! Want at least 50% of the systems we included in this game to be rewarding and engaging? Best I can do is about pretty. The problem with Loading Screen Simulator and the universe within it is that it gets so frustratingly boring because it is physically unable to juggle all of the sandbox and narrative elements they have baked before cramming them in. Worse still, the exploration and world building of this game is so laughably bad that you could have convinced me I had cancer fatigue with how many times I had to take naps from the mental exertion it took to engage with the universe they created. Honestly, what in the diddy oil fuck are you doing, Bethesda? One of your biggest strengths was how great you were at world building and environmental storytelling. So please tell me why you decided to scrap that for hundreds of bland planets nobody cares about. It would be like if for the next From Software game, Hidetaka Miyazaki said, "We know what you, the fans, truly want." So we decided to scrap all combat and instead replace it with a series of Dance Dance Revolution dance-offs.
All of this just works.
There are so many would-be great things in this game that just aren't fleshed out enough to justify their existence at all. And sure, you could argue that with enough time and money, all of them could be great. But just like those idiots who say my dad isn't coming back with the milk he left to get 15 years ago, you've got to stop living in fantasy land, dummy. Bethesda needs to stop going for recreational prostate exams and actually decide what it wants to be as a developer. Enough of the corporate checklist for everything each game should include to maximize sales, and pick a lane. If you want to make a sandbox game, make a sandbox game. If you want to make an epic narrative-driven game, then do that. But this profit-focused, gluttonous approach of ham-fisting as many half-baked elements from each design philosophy as possible is just frustrating and clearly isn't working for anyone. Rather than the hundreds of procedurally generated slop planets that felt like I was playing the Temu version of No Man's Sky, it would have been so much more enjoyable to have a choice of 3 to 4 rich and interactive planets with more handcrafted content to choose from. Seeing the exact same 15 points of interest gets old real quick, and once you've seen them all, there's no real reason to explore new environments outside of base building, which, unfortunately, was also not that great this time round. As for them punishing you for trying anything but the good guy approach, I honestly don't know why they didn't take the easy slam dunk of making every NPC killable like in Morrowind. I won't spoil any of the specifics for you, but the core premise of the game makes it so easily doable that it genuinely baffles me why they didn't try it in the first place, and it feels like such a missed opportunity that I don't know what ChatGPT Todd was thinking.
All of this just works.
If it's too artistically involved for them, at the very least, make a narrative with multiple different approaches to being the hero. Right off the top of my head, I can think of the cold and efficient pragmatist, the empathetic hothead, and the reluctant hero thrusting to a role greater than their own whims. All of these could work without having to risk disturbing shareholder value or only buying 2 mega yachts this year, and there's no reason for this tepid role-playing experience we got. Unfortunately, and it pains me to have to say this, but the Bethesda we know and love is dead. Like many of you, it's been a foundational aspect of my gaming journey. So much so that I even have a rather large tattoo of the Imperial Dragon on me that I still cherish to this day. But the fact that the best Bethesda game in over 10 years is a remake of another game they released 19 years ago, made by a different studio, is so disappointingly frustrating and upsetting, it makes me want to cry. Worst of all is that Starfield still sold tremendously well, so they don't have to learn any lessons from this. All in all, Starfield is a pathetic, shameful, hollow reminder of what was a once great studio. And despite all of their ranting and raving about finally being able to make the game they wanted with absolute freedom, it's clear they don't have it in them anymore. If only this game was like 10% better, just good enough for modders to once again fix the dog shit product Bethesda expects you to lap up with a smile, then it could have been a wonderful experience for everyone. Sadly, all we can do now is hope for Obsidian and Larian Studios to outshine them enough to either force a change or allow the studio to die before we watch it become the next Blizzard and ruin the memorable, cherished name it once held in all of us. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please remember to like and subscribe, as well as to share it with your friends. Otherwise, I hope to see you in the next video, and thank you once again.